Have you ever found yourself lying in bed at night, eyes closed but mind restless, whispering silent wishes into the darkness, hoping, just hoping, that tomorrow will feel different? That somehow, while you sleep, life might realign, shift, or transform. Yet morning arrives, and everything feels the same. The same fears, the same limits, the same ache in your chest as you rise to face another day. Neville Goddard, the mystic teacher of imagination and consciousness, once said, "You rise tomorrow as the man or woman you assume yourself to be tonight." And that is where the great misunderstanding begins. Because most people go to sleep not in the feeling of a changed self, but in the weight of what hasn't yet come. We fall asleep repeating worries, rehearsing disappointments, wishing for a different reality, while emotionally clinging to the old one. You see, manifestation doesn't begin when the clock strikes midnight. It doesn't start tomorrow. It begins the moment you shift your state of consciousness. And Neville taught, time and time again, that consciousness is the only reality. Not what you see, not what you hear, but what you feel is true in the depth of your being. And yet, here is the paradox. We often desire change, but we sleep in the same state that created our unwanted reality. That is the loop, the prison, the silent agreement we make with limitation. Neville called this living in the old man, the psychological state of your former self. And as long as you drift into sleep with your identity anchored in lack, your subconscious simply recreates the same patterns over and over again. But what if, just what if, the key was not doing more, trying harder, or praying louder? What if it was simply choosing to enter the feeling of the wish fulfilled before you surrender to sleep? This is the essence of Neville Goddard's philosophy. To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled so completely, so vividly, that your subconscious accepts it as reality. Because your subconscious doesn't know time. It doesn't care about logic. It responds only to feeling. To dwell in the felt reality of success, before the world shows it, is to plant the seed of your new life in the most fertile ground there is. Your own imagination, wrapped in emotion, nourished by belief. So if you've ever felt trapped by repetition, if you've woken up 1,000 times in a life that doesn't reflect your dreams, know this: it's not your desire that's the problem. It's the state in which you fall asleep. And until that changes, nothing else truly can. Think about the last time someone genuinely congratulated you. Maybe it was for a promotion, a personal breakthrough, a milestone you quietly worked toward. For just a moment, didn't the world feel brighter? Didn't you feel seen, validated, and most importantly, complete? That moment, fleeting as it may have been, was saturated with a powerful emotional signature, the feeling of success already attained. Neville Goddard emphasized that it is not merely the act of visualizing your desires that brings them to life. It is the emotional conviction, the felt reality, that transforms the unseen into the seen. He taught that your subconscious is most receptive not to images, not to mantras, but to feelings. And among the most potent of these feelings is the sensation of being congratulated. Why? Because when someone says, "I'm proud of you, you did it," your entire nervous system responds as if the goal has already been achieved. Your body relaxes into certainty. Your mind releases resistance. Your heart opens to the truth of fulfillment. But here's the transformative insight. You do not need to wait for the external world to trigger that emotion. According to Neville Goddard, you are the operant power. You can choose to feel the inner celebration before anything changes on the outside. And when you do, your subconscious takes that feeling as fact, not fantasy. The subconscious mind, as Neville taught, doesn't discern between what is real and what is vividly imagined, especially when emotion is present. So when you imagine someone dear to you, your mentor, your best friend, your partner, looking into your eyes and saying, "Congratulations. I always knew you could do it," something profound happens. You shift states. You move from longing to embodiment. You exit the vibration of lack and enter the vibration of fulfillment. This is not wishful thinking. This is spiritual technology. It's the recalibration of identity. And when practiced nightly, especially in that soft, suggestible state just before sleep, it begins to reshape the world around you, because the world, as Neville Goddard revealed, is only ever mirroring the world within. Most people spend their nights rehearsing failures or worrying about what hasn't happened yet. They unknowingly instruct their subconscious to continue manifesting what they don't want. But when you consciously create a scene of being congratulated, and, more importantly, when you feel the warmth, the joy, the relief that comes with that moment, you imprint a new pattern into the soil of your subconscious. And that soil never says no. It only grows what is planted. The emotion of being congratulated carries with it an implicit truth. Something wonderful has already happened. And if you can live in that feeling, even for just a few sacred minutes before sleep, your reality must begin to change. Not because the world suddenly shifted, but because you did. So how do we move from knowing this truth to living it? How do we take Neville Goddard's profound insight, that your feeling creates your reality, and make it practical, tangible, repeatable every single night? The answer lies in a four-step process that, while deceptively simple, holds within it the mechanics of manifestation. This is the core of what Neville called living in the end, assuming the state of the wish fulfilled. The first step is clarity. You must choose one specific accomplishment that you wish to manifest. Vague desires produce vague results. If you go to bed thinking, "I just want more money," your subconscious has nothing concrete to work with. But if you declare, with emotional precision, "I have just been offered the creative director position at my dream company, with the exact salary I've always wanted," now you are offering your subconscious a blueprint. Neville Goddard emphasized that the subconscious is like fertile soil. It will grow whatever seed you plant, but the seed must be clear, alive, and emotionally charged. Once the desire is clearly defined, you move to step 2, imagining the moment of congratulations. This is not about watching yourself succeed as a distant observer. It's about embodying the version of you who already has. Choose someone meaningful, a person whose recognition you deeply value. Imagine them standing before you, smiling, eyes filled with admiration and joy. They reach out, touch your shoulder, and say, "You did it. I knew you would." Notice every detail, their voice, the environment, the way the light falls in the room. Make the scene so vivid that it feels inevitable. But imagery alone is not enough. As Neville often stated, the feeling is the secret. That brings us to step 3. You must feel the emotions of that moment as if it were real. Let joy swell in your chest. Let the tears of relief well in your eyes. Let gratitude flood your being like warm light. This isn't about pretending or forcing. It's about surrendering to the emotional truth of what it would feel like if your dream had already come true. You don't wait for the world to show you evidence. You provide the evidence internally through feeling. And then, the final step, fall asleep in that state. As your body drifts towards sleep, keep your mind saturated in the emotional experience of your success. Neville taught that the state in which you fall asleep is the state your subconscious will carry throughout the night. That's 8 uninterrupted hours where your deeper mind is marinating in the frequency of fulfillment. You are no longer begging, chasing, or hoping. You are resting in the knowing that it is already done. What you're doing, in essence, is bypassing the resistance of the conscious mind. You're planting a new identity in the fertile ground of the subconscious. You are saying, "This is who I am now. This is the life I live." And because the outer world must reflect the inner assumption, reality begins to bend. Circumstances shift. People show up. Synchronicities align, not because you forced them, but because you became the version of you who already had the thing. This is how you activate the divine law Neville Goddard spoke of. Not through striving, but through assuming. Not through trying harder, but through feeling deeper. And once you make this a nightly ritual, not a task, but a sacred ceremony, you will begin to witness the quiet unfolding of miracles. Not because they came from outside, but because you finally opened the door from within. This is where most people unknowingly sabotage their manifestation journey. They grasp the idea of visualization. They may even go through the motions of imagining a scene. But what they miss, what Neville Goddard emphasized again and again, is the feeling. They visualize success with their minds while feeling lack in their hearts. And so nothing changes. Because the subconscious mind is not moved by mental pictures alone. It is moved by emotion. Neville once wrote, "It is not what you want that you attract. You attract what you believe to be true." And belief is not a logical decision. It's an emotional conviction. You can repeat affirmations endlessly, but if you feel doubtful, anxious, or unworthy while saying them, you are broadcasting those feelings into the subconscious, not the words. The law of assumption does not respond to what you say. It responds to what you are. And what you are is defined by the emotional state you inhabit most often. This is why falling asleep in the state of the wish fulfilled is so essential. Sleep is the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious. It is the moment when your defenses fall, when the rational mind releases its grip, and your emotional truths slip quietly into the depths of your being. But if you carry frustration, impatience, or doubt into sleep, your subconscious receives that as your reality and replicates it faithfully. You must become brutally honest with yourself. Are you merely thinking about your desires, or are you feeling them into existence? Are you checking off a spiritual to-do list at night, or are you entering a new identity with your entire emotional body? Neville taught that persistence in the assumption of the wish fulfilled is the key. Not just one night, not just on days when it feels easy, but night after night, choosing again and again to identify with the version of yourself who already has. It is not repetition that creates change. It is emotional intensity fused with repetition. What stops people is not the universe withholding blessings. It's their unwillingness to let go of the familiar emotions tied to the old self. The doubt, the fear, the belief that it's not possible for them. And so, even while they are imagining success, they are emotionally tied to failure. They are still being the version of themselves who doesn't have. You cannot manifest a new reality while emotionally anchored in the old one. Neville Goddard called this dying to the old man, and it's uncomfortable, because it requires letting go of everything you've used to define yourself, your story, your struggle, your wounds. But on the other side of that surrender is freedom, not a distant future, but a now so real it can only be entered through feeling. So tonight, when you lay down to sleep, notice where your emotions are. Are you falling asleep in longing, in lack, in frustration? Or are you entering the warm, satisfying, breath-softened world where you've already been congratulated, already succeeded, already arrived? The difference is subtle, but it's everything. Because as Neville revealed, the secret of the universe is hidden in one simple truth. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and live in that assumption as though it were true. Everything else is details. Tonight is not just another night. It is a doorway, a threshold, a sacred opportunity to step into a new version of yourself, not through effort, but through assumption, not through striving, but through surrender. Neville Goddard taught that the most powerful time to impress the subconscious mind is in the final moments before sleep. Why? Because that's when the veil between the conscious and the subconscious thins. That's when your imagination, if infused with feeling, becomes the architect of tomorrow. When you fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are not hoping. It is not a plea or a bargain. You are declaring, "This is now who I am." That feeling becomes your new emotional home. And as Neville said so clearly, your world is your consciousness objectified. What you accept as true in consciousness, especially in the twilight space of sleep, will outpicture itself in your waking reality. But here lies the subtle danger, the temptation to fall back into old emotional habits, to let fear sneak in just before sleep, to allow what-ifs to hijack your state. These moments matter more than we realize. The last thing you feel before you drift into unconsciousness becomes the first instruction your subconscious receives to create from. So choose deliberately. Tonight, choose to feel the success, not the lack. Choose to imagine not the journey, but the destination as if it were already yours. See yourself already living in the reality you desire. Hear the congratulations. Feel the relief. Let your heart swell with quiet certainty. There is no need to prove, no need to beg. The universe doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to identity, to what you truly believe you are. And belief, Neville reminded us, is not formed by logic. It is forged in repetition and emotional depth. That's why this practice isn't something you do once. It's a devotion, a nightly ritual of return. Return to the truth that you are already it, that what you seek is not separate from you. It's simply waiting for you to accept it on the inside. Fall asleep tonight in peace. Fall asleep tonight as if the victory has already occurred. Because in the realm of imagination, the only creative power, as Neville taught, it already has. What you feel deeply and consistently becomes your world. This is not mysticism, it is law. So sleep with intention. Sleep with confidence. Sleep as one who has already been congratulated. And when you wake, do not look for signs. Simply continue to walk in that feeling, calmly, quietly, reverently. Your job is not to make it happen. Your job is to become the version of you for whom it has already happened. This is the secret Neville Goddard gave to the world. You do not wait for the world to change to feel different. You feel different, and the world must follow. Tonight, close your eyes not in longing, but in arrival. Sleep not as a seeker, but as the one who has already received. And the universe, ever faithful, will mirror back exactly who you dared to become in the silence of your soul. If this message has stirred something in you, if some part of your soul feels like it's been waiting for this truth, then tonight is your invitation to begin. Not tomorrow, not when circumstances improve. Now, Neville Goddard's teachings are not philosophy to admire, but a practice to embody. His words weren't written to be remembered, they were meant to be lived. And this is how you live them, by choosing, with complete emotional conviction, to fall asleep as the version of yourself who has already arrived. Don't let this become just another idea you nod to and forget. Don't let your mind say, "That was inspiring," while your heart retreats to the old familiar feeling of waiting, hoping, doubting. The change happens when you act from belief, not belief in a concept, but belief in yourself, your power, your right to create from within. The only question that matters now is, will you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled tonight? Start small if you must. One desire, one scene, one person congratulating you. Feel it until your body believes it's real. Let the warmth of that imagined moment melt away your resistance. Let your breath soften as you release every doubt, every delay, every story of why it can't be you. And when you lie down to sleep, let it be not in anxiety or wishing, but in quiet celebration. As Neville said, act as though it were already true, and it will become true. If you're truly ready, if you no longer wish to repeat the old story, but to write a new one with every heartbeat, then make a declaration right now. Speak it aloud, whisper it, or type it below if your heart feels called to share. I am ready to be congratulated. Not someday, now. Let that sentence be the bridge between who you were and who you choose to become. Let it anchor you to the emotional state of arrival. Let it be the seed that plants a new version of you into the fertile soil of the subconscious tonight. And if the mind resists, if doubts creep in, remember Neville's quiet reminder. Dare to believe in the reality of your assumption and watch the world play its part to reflect it. You are not waiting for permission. You are not waiting for a sign. The moment you feel it, really feel it, the universe begins to move. So go. Close your eyes. Step into the scene. Feel the hands of your future self embracing you. Hear the words, "You did it." Smile, exhale, and sleep, as one who has already received.